I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on Sonic Perspectives, we are speaking with Pete and Joey from the Crystal Casino to talk about the release of their new album, Maryland House, that came out on January 27th. Welcome, guys, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Robert. We're so happy to be here.
Yeah, very cool. Great album.
Thank you.
You guys are so much younger than I thought. You guys sound so experienced on the CD, and so you guys look really young. What age group are you guys in?
We would call ourselves Zillennials. We're in between Gen Z and the millennial generation. We still like Harry Potter, so we're not quite Gen Z, but
But most everybody I speak to is older looking. I should, not to be disrespectful. I was like, oh my God, you guys are so young. That's great. So, well, thanks again for taking the time. Tell me a little about the origins of the band. I'm not that familiar with the history of you guys.
So Joey and I, we started the band together. We met when we were just about to start George Washington University. It was the summer of 2015, and so we met during orientation before classes even started. And our paths crossed. I mentioned I played guitar. He mentioned that he played the drums. And we kind of joked around that we could be a band similar to the Black Keys or the White Stripes, like one of those just like garage rock duos. And we both really bonded over the fact that we both liked the Black Keys. We talked a lot about the album Brothers by them. And yeah, then it was kind of cool. We started like writing songs before classes even started. Like Joey lived in Ohio and my mom lived in Connecticut. So we didn't like physically in person get together, but it's kind of a little preceding of the pandemic, like how a lot of people worked on music virtually. We would send each other tracks on GarageBand over email. Wow. And yeah, we had a few songs before classes even started. And then as college went on, we added more members, and the band has been going for almost 8 years at this point.
Oh,
We
awesome.
we sort of like arrived like first day of school, like already as like, oh, those guys are like that band, like those guys are in a band, like yeah, off the jump. So it was a great time.
Well, that's pretty good. Particularly when I was in a band. I was in a cover band through college, and that was pretty prestigious. It was like, oh yeah, he's got long hair. He's in a cover band. But that was good for you guys. It's like being the quarterback. It's all good. Was there a vision you had going into the creation of Maryland House?
So I would say, well, we worked with the same producers that we worked with on our previous album, Not About You. And I think we definitely wanted it to be like a step up for that for sure. But I think the vision kind of was just all shaped from the actual songs that were just written in general. Like all these songs were written in 2020 and 2021. And just because there were so many things happening during that period, especially in Washington, D.C. with the 2020 election, the pandemic, insurrection, etc. Those themes just kind of like bled into the album and really, really shaped it. So I would say like that kind of was our vision for like the themes of the record. But going into it, we also wanted to like definitely make it as collaborative as possible as well, and have other voices that we didn't have on previous records. If Joe, you can probably add to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, like there's each member like is singing lead vocals on a different track, where previously like Pete was sort of the only lead singer. I mean, also just to like round out what Pete said, less so than we like plotted out and planned out like the themes for the record. I'd say we amassed a collection of songs, and then we kind of looked at them and said, what does this like suggest, or like what is the overarching themes here? So yeah, it wasn't necessarily as intentional from the outset as it ended up being thematically.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like it was one collective mind coming together by four different people to put this all together. Was that a surprise to you guys when you came all together with presenting your demos and your ideas and saying, oh, there's a centralized theme here, and I see it boiling over?
That's a good question. I don't know if it was I mean, I definitely think, we spend a lot of time together, and we like definitely we don't necessarily like sit down and physically write together, but whenever we have an idea for a song, we work through it together.
Yeah.
So while, like, I mean, P is definitely the principal songwriter. Definitely we all sort of like collaboratively work on the songs, and then they kind of become, you know, products of each of our different perspectives. Even though like Pete has sort of given us the framework most of the time. So yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily say we were surprised, but it is definitely cool to
Yeah.
hear that's how it comes through.
Like a
Yeah, we
happy
have spent
accident
so
where
much time
everybody.
together that obviously like the things that we talk to each other about like can enter other people's songs as well,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah, that's a true band, a true gang. You know, all thinking in one mindset of what the focus of the music should be. You know,
Exactly.
it feels and it sounds like you guys put a lot of energy and extreme efforts into creating these ultimate expressions of these songs. Tell me about that work ethic that you have. Would you?
So, what was pretty cool about this record is that we worked with our same producers from the last one, Kyle Downs and Jay Nehmeyer. And Kyle has a house in the northern part of DC, and so we would every Tuesday meet up there. And so it was pretty cool how like it was like we had a standing date to just go in and like work on this record, and we were very productive. I would say it would be like every Tuesday we would do some things, and then Joey would lock in his drum days like so that he could bang out like 3 songs at once on Saturdays. So it was like a very structured schedule of like how to actually get this record done. And so within this like maybe 5 days a month or so, would you say, Joey, like of working on it, like for the production wise,
Yeah.
something along those lines?
Well, yeah. Sorry.
We were able to get it done from recording from January through September.
Yeah, and just
Wow.
like a small like product of Kyle's you know, studio and living situation, like he lives in a townhouse with like really close to his neighbors, and also he has basically like a 1.5-year-old daughter. So like we literally like cannot be up late like making a bunch of noise. So
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna say we rushed through parts but we had no choice but to like work quickly.
Yeah.
In some respects, and maybe that as a byproduct like, you know, generated some energy.
You know, sometimes to that point, taking too long or lamenting over it could just it never ends. Sometimes you just gotta put the foot down and say we're done, and this sounds great, and we're really happy with it. And next time we know better, we'll whatever the case may be, and we'll do something a little different. But I think that's great. You know, and this question's to both of you. You know, songs are written in different ways for different purposes based upon your frame of mind. Do you feel yourself creating something special one day and then suddenly something not the next?
Yeah, I would say like when it comes to songwriting, to be honest, it is kind of just like a numbers game of like how often you go about it to like try to get something that you really like. Like I would say out of the 13 songs that were on Maryland House, like I wrote I think like 10 of them or so. And I think I probably had like 50 ideas I dwindled down to like those 10. So
Okay.
it's all about like putting the time in to like actually like make something, and that itself, even if it's something that's not going to be on a record, like even just putting in the effort in is something to be proud of for sure, and to hone your craft, because then those songs that are going to be really good like will be even better like the more effort you put into it.
Right.
So it can be discouraging, but it's just something you have to just like schedule in the time to just go and do it.
How about you, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely probably a better question. Like Pete definitely has a better perspective on it because he writes, I mean, a lot more prolifically than I do. But we definitely like as a group, I guess we had like this Google Drive filled with like demos from all of us, you know, all the ones that Pete's mentioning. Like Jordan had a bunch, Jarrod had some, I had some, and we really did just like exactly what Pete's saying, like whittle down and kind of say like, all right, this needs to be there, like this needs to be here, like we can live without this one. So yeah, I mean it's part of the like reality of doing stuff and making stuff. Like not everything you make can be good, just, you know, logically. So yeah.
And just because those songs didn't make the album doesn't mean they can't be reworked down the road for a better purpose or a better song or an idea that comes out of it. You always hear those stories too, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few songs that like I've since revisited since like I passed on it for Maryland House, but like I think that for the next one there might be one of those from then that like I've had more time to like try and work on. So like that'll be really cool when if that comes to fruition for the next record.
It also is
Yeah.
a case of like a lot of times when you know, make a demo that's maybe just like guitar and singing or whatever the case may be, like so often the songs like take on a completely new like life and when the you know the whole band gets a hold of it, and then like once we get it into the studio, like I mean it's any number of things could happen, so it is really hard to like evaluate like, you know, from the bare bones demo what it's night and day, the difference. So
It really is.
definitely like very, very open to revisiting some of those that were left on the cutting room floor.
I will say, add to that though, you know, a song's going to be really great if it can stand acoustic as well.
Well,
Like,
that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you write predominantly on acoustic, and then when you transfer it over to electric, it, you know, it saves it or it brings it to live?
So I would say a majority of the songs I've written over my life have started off acoustic, but since then I've been really just trying to just like lock in the instrumental for what I'm thinking of on Logic. That's been like my new thing. And being able to just like play already with like the electronic amp sounds that you can have and everything. So that's been my new strategy, but absolutely everything has started acoustic in the past.
Yeah. Now, tell me a little bit about the passion you guys have about, or Pete and Joey, the passion you have about the DC, Maryland, Virginia area and writing songs about what goes on there.
We've been here for 8 years at this point, so it's home for us for sure. I mean, both Joey and I grew up in areas outside of here. Like Joey grew up in Ohio, I grew up outside of Chicago. And then ever since we started here though, DC has been our home. Like we feel so welcome here, and we've really come up through the music scene and try to give back to the music scene here as much as we can as well. And so yeah, we really wanted to we do love this area. It's such a unique perspective that the rest of the country I really don't think has, just because we're so close to the government and everything. Like everyone's lives revolve around the decisions made in the Capitol, and we're so close to there. So it's definitely a different vibe, and so many songs are like about LA and New York City, and so it's a unique perspective that we're trying to put more light on.
And you own that. We talked a little bit earlier before you got on. If you had to write a song about that highway that's crazy to drive, what would you call it?
Die 95.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like Antlers is kind of about the the surrounding highway.
A little bit, yeah. That's the song where we played a wedding in 2021. My friend Dan was getting married, and I rented a zip car to transport like all our equipment to there. And then Joey actually rented a U-Haul, and so Joey, Jarrod, and Jordan were in the U-Haul, and I was alone in my zip car, and I was driving back, and it was like a really dark country road in Virginia, and then a deer just ran out of nowhere, and I was like inches away from the deer, and so that's where that song Antlers came from. But yeah, so did almost die on the Virginia roads.
Oh yeah. That's a crazy road, as we were talking. Yes, definitely. So much so that my daughter was in a skating competition. We had to go drive to Virginia, and we had planned a couple of months later to go to Washington, D.C. and visit some of the sites. And I'm not going back there. I said, I'll take a train, but I am not going back there if I have to drive, because that was the scariest drive I ever had to do in my life.
We do love Amtrak though.
I think the Northeast Regional, yeah, that's for
yeah,
sure.
It's great.
But I do love Washington. I do agree, but the roads were a little quite scary. You have a song too, Jamie. Everybody is taking a turn singing on it. It's kind of Def Leppard did this a couple of years back with one of their songs, and I really like the approach. Tell me how it came about.
Joey, I think you actually got this one. He came up with the idea of everybody singing.
Yeah, I think it was a product of like there's 2 lines in there, and I think we couldn't think of like 2 more lines, and we were sitting in actually Jarrod's apartment, like all holding guitars and playing and singing it. And I was just like, well, what if we did it in a round? Like Pete starts first, and then, you know, I don't know how it goes. Jarrod starts second, then Jordan. Yeah, so I just thought like that would kind of give us an easy cop out of not having to write more lyrics. So that's kind of, and it turned out sounding really cool. So
Provided
We were
everybody can
joking
sing.
around that our producer Kyle, we're like, he's gonna lose his mind when he hears this, and he did.
Yeah.
And you're lucky you all could sing, because that's how it works. If then you guys all couldn't sing, you'd be really hosed.
Yeah.
You know, what song off of Maryland House would you say came to you as a gift from above? Just kind of fell in your lap, lyrically or musically?
Hmm. I'm trying to think what would be the one that just came most naturally. I mean, honestly, I think Curfew probably came the most naturally. It was
Okay.
like right after, like came to me right after January 6th happened. And that song's just like about our experience living in this area when that all happened. And so I would say like I probably had the lyrics by like January 7th, and then the
Wow.
rest of the song came by like the 10th or so.
Yeah.
So I would say that one was like the most inspiration to actually, no. Curfew is definitely one of them, but Antlers literally came to me on the drive home after almost hitting the deer.
Yeah, I just want to be clear that I wouldn't consider the events of January 6th a gift in any way, but
Yes, that's a very good disclaimer.
Yes, yeah. Put that up underneath it.
Our lawyer is my
Right.
that was lawyer Joey chiming in.
Thank you. And you know, it's not easy to write a song, number one, but to take a historic moment in time and then to translate that to a melody and to a lyrical combination, it's got to be a bit of a challenge. I'm surprised out of all the songs, that would be the one that would be quote unquote the easiest one to write.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. That's it's interesting. Like, I mean, another historical song that's very similar to that is like Ohio by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, where that's like completely about a historical event.
True.
So it's not uncommon, but you're right, definitely doesn't happen quite often. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was just like the perspective, like actually being somebody in this area that like kind of drove like an urgency to write about it.
I mean, it's definitely like something, a pattern I would point out in Pete's songwriting historically over the past 8 years is he always writes like about his own life predominantly, maybe not always, but predominantly. And like, I mean, the lyrics are, they're not like, oh, here are the geopolitical events that have led up to January 6th, and here's an evaluative statement about whether or not it's good or bad. It's like his experience and his outlook on that day is probably why it was a little more, natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. Like, you know, Springsteen would do exactly the same thing. Bon Jovi would do exactly the same thing had they been in that area. So yeah, and that's what brings your personality out in your music, is that real world experience. And I think that's what differentiates just talking about sex, drugs, or rock and roll, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. What's your tour plans? Anything coming up that you want to share?
So we're really proud. On February 9th, we're headlining the 930 Club, which we're like so excited for. That's such a historic venue in DC. So to be headlining there is such an honor, especially like being local musicians here. And we also got a show already in the books in Chicago and Columbus. We're working on one in Toronto and Pittsburgh, and we got a lot more dates coming up too. Yeah, we're definitely trying to get a lot more shows out there in 2023.
And I'll put, should I put your Facebook in the description, or should I put your website? Where could people go to see all your dates?
They can all see the dates on the website for sure. ChrysCasinoBand.com. They can also find us on all streaming platforms, Instagram at Chris Casino Band, Twitter. We're everywhere.
Cool. Very
Here,
good.
there, and everywhere.
Well, my last question for both of you, and you know, this is the question literally for both of you. What has been the biggest challenge musically and professionally so far in your career?
That's tough. I would say like professionally, I think when it comes for Joey and I were actually just talking about this earlier today, because we were interviewing with our old school GW's newspaper, The Hatchet, and we were saying that one of our challenges musically was like trying to convince people that like we're a serious band to like to take seriously, because I don't know, like when you're in college, like everyone just kind of like plays it off a little bit. So I would say and also like too, just starting a band and like taking off is really difficult. There's a lot of hours that we put into this. I mean, Joey and I both work 9 to 5 jobs, and this is our really fun night job from 5 to whatever time we're going to go to bed. So there's so many hours that went into it. So I would say professionally, like the hard work of just like getting it to take off to this level has been challenged, but it's been so rewarding. Like nothing else has been more rewarding in my life, I don't think.
Okay, how about you, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, similar statement, like whatever you would consider like this like moderate success that we've had to this point, like it's been in no way like overnight, or in no way has it been, I mean, we started off, the first concert we ever played was in the basement of a dorm, you know, our freshman year dorm, and like since then we played dive bars, like frat houses, like completely empty, you know, empty rooms. We've driven all across the country. We've done, I mean, literally just like it's hard work, and it's been a slow build process to get to where we are now. And so, you know, it's just funny, like you're saying, like, oh, you guys are so young, like, you know, like it's true, like we're definitely young, but we're already close to a decade worth of work.
Wow.
And so you know, I guess it's just like, yeah, nothing in this like space, or nothing in this industry is given to you, and everything you have to kind of take for yourself. And like the point that Pete makes about, you know, getting taken seriously, like nobody is ever going to take you more seriously than you take yourself, or nobody's ever going to take your art more seriously than you take yourself. So you have to, even when it's like awkward or weird or cringy or whatever, like you just have to present like, yeah, like we're the Beatles, you know, we're the real deal. Otherwise, no, I mean, people aren't gonna do that for you.
That's great. That's great sentiment, both of you guys, your answers. Well, I want to say thank you guys for both joining. I really appreciate it, and really insightful and interesting interview. And I wish you the best of luck with the album and your tour plans.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Robert. We really appreciate you giving us the time to be on this platform and everything.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Take it easy, guys.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you.
Bye.